Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. John Owen talks about sports and movies. Thank you for checking out today's video. I always appreciate the support. Let's get into it. So I have just gotten out of a viewing of Avatar: The Way of Water, the James Cameron sequel to the first Avatar movie, and I've got a lot of thoughts personally. Overall, I think it's visually exceptional, but still flawed in some other areas, and we'll go into that. But make sure you guys uh, like the video and comment if you saw it. Leave your thoughts down below. What did you think of it? And subscribe so you never miss out on any of the fun. And before I dive too deep into it, I'm going to issue a spoiler alert. And so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want it spoiled, I'm going to be diving into some pretty deep spoilers. And so just save this, save it to your watch later, and come back. A view's a view, no matter when you get it. So I appreciate it, but we're going to jump into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So I've got a lot of thoughts. So we don't even have like a set slide, whatever. We're just gonna have free flow conversation. So let's talk about the main draw of the film, the visuals, the special effects, the CGI. I mean, dear God, I know why this movie cost so much to make and why it took them so long to make it. I mean, it's like watching a nature documentary film. It is just this beautiful, immersive, super detailed, hyper realistic world. You cannot tell the difference between CGI and what's real. You can't do it. You cannot tell the difference, which I think is just crazy. I mean, I don't understand, how they were able to pull off. I mean, obviously, yes, if you put in the time and the effort to make it look like this, like obviously, yes, you can achieve it. But it truly is visually just stunning. I mean, it truly is. It truly, truly is. I mean, I can't even explain how beautiful it is until you just go and watch it and see for yourself. It's the visuals of the first movie, which are great and beautiful, and some of the best visuals of all time turned up to even the next level, turned up a notch. Um, and so it is just this beautiful, 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 beautiful film. And it is just stunning to sit there and watch, and they take their time flexing the special effects budget. I mean, there's like fairly long stretches of this movie where nobody's talking, it's just the music, and they are just letting the characters kind of move around, kind of swim around, just kind of flexing how beautiful it is, which admittedly, don't blame them. Sometimes you just gotta flex. Because they worked really hard. They worked much harder than, especially movie studios and movies probably work this day and age on special effects, as everything's kind of a rat race to get out. But I mean, it is just a beautiful, 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 stunning, stunning, exceptional masterpiece in that area. From a pure visual standpoint, I really have a hard time thinking of a movie that looks nicer than this. That looks more realistic. I mean, it was like watching a Nat Geo documentary about Pandora. That's literally what it looked like. It looked so realistic. Nothing looked computer generated. I mean, you couldn't tell that it wasn't CGI. I mean, like you knew that like the animals were CGI, but only because like they're not real animals, so you can kind of pick it apart. But like I don't know, like the water. I mean, the water's not CGI. I think they filmed like almost all of this movie underwater, which obviously you can tell. But um, I mean, yeah, it is just a beautiful, exceptional movie. Another thing that I liked was just learning more about Pandora. It's just this really cool, beautiful planet, and I think James Cameron and the team continues to build on it, and we get to meet the like this water tribe after we met like the air tribe and then the horse tribe in the last movie. And then we spent like very, very small brief time with them. Um so just like continuing to expand on the world of Pandora is also really cool. Um, everything else, there are some issues. I think the visuals are perfect and amazing and beautiful and stunning and any positive adjective you can think of. And the world building concerning specifically Pandora is great. We'll get into some other world building things here in a second. But um I shouldn't say everything else is flawed. It's a very simple yet very moving plot. It's not like multi-layered, but it's not as formulaic as the first movie's plot. I mean, dear God, the first movie is literally just the most generic sci-fi foreigner enters indigenous people land plot with the most beautiful graphics of all time just slapped onto it. This movie, they do some different things. It's not as formulaic. Um, not a complex plot or one with a lot of layers that all weave together nice, but they introduce elements and then they capitalize on them at the end. It's an effective plot. Um, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't go without its flaws. I just character choices in this movie are just dumbfounding at some points. I mean, okay, let's back it up. Then we'll do this. I mean, the things that this movie addresses and talks about, I mean, dear God, they talk about imperialism, colonialism, the very negative repercussions of it, um, the just genocide, both like morality wise and culturally, um, whaling. I mean, dear God, there's this ginormous whaling section that is heartbreaking to watch. Like, dear God, someone wrote that. Some sick person wrote this very intense, very detailed whaling section, and they like I can't remember the names, but the water people have these like essentially they're whales, like creatures that they like have very special like spiritual bonds with. Like they're like a spirit sisters and brothers. Like they're like emotionally connected to them, which is really cool and really sweet. But like the sky people, the humans are like intentionally hunting them for this gel that is inside their brains that stops aging, and then they just discard the rest of the body, similar to how real whaling, back in the day they would harvest whales for their blubber and just throw the carcass back. They wouldn't harvest the rest of it. So a very in-depth whaling plot line that is just sickening. I mean, it's just wrong. I'm like, who wrote this? Who, like, oh my gosh. Um and then the cultural appropriation in this movie is insane. I mean, Spider, the human baby who couldn't leave Pandora. I mean, come on. I know Jake knows that is not acceptable for a human on Earth. Like, come on, man. And like, I don't know, and like the protective hairstyle? Really? Really? Like, damn, dude. Um, yeah, I mean, like, and Jake's got like this very full set head of dreads, which obviously I know, like, I don't know. It just I know Jake is technically like Navi now, but like I don't know, just something feels very wrong and off about like them having dreads. Like I don't know. I don't know. It's just something about it is just icky. Like it just seems fishy. Like ugh. It really just seems fishy. But um, and God, I hate it when movies do this. Ugh, I hate character revivals. Like or resurrections when they bring characters back from the dead without any real thematic purpose. Like the Colonel comes back, but they put him into an avatar body. And just like James Cameron, you can't write a new villain. You can't come up with something new, something fun. I'm just like, like I don't know, and it's like very Get Out ish, and so And that's, kind of problematic and just like, I just come up with a new villain. Like, you had the general lady right there. Like, you killed the colonel. And I didn't find him particularly interesting. He was just a bigoted, ignorant, very basic colonialistic villain in the first movie. Like, there was nothing special about the colonel. It's not like they wrote this very captivating, very understandable, like, captivating villain that you wanted to see more of. No one cared. No one cared about him. So I'm like, why bring him back? Just let him go. Just write something new. And like Katie, Keely, something like that. She's Grace's daughter, but in her avatar body. And they go on this whole plot line of who her father is, but they never. And she's got like this very in-depth connection to Aoi, with their deity. And then after she has the seizure, like kind of halfway through the movie, they never touch on it. They never talk about it. They just don't. They just don't talk about it, like, at all. Like, they just don't bring it back up. I'm like, yeah. They heal her and like, yeah, like, we gotta go. Like, we gotta rumble. So I don't know. They just like, and then of course Spider, who honestly was really annoying, and I didn't like him. I mean, he was inferior to the rest of like Sully and I feel bad for not being able to pronounce the wife's name, but Natiri or Natiri or whatever her name is. Um, he's absolutely less compelling in every aspect than all of Sully's kids, who honestly are like in the spotlight for almost all the movies. Sully and the wife get sidetracked. I mean, even for the Colonel. And Sully just like, and I know exactly why he did it. I know exactly why Sully saves the Colonel from drowning. Like, he just watched him do all these atrocities, burn all of these villages, hunt the whales, and just sit there and disagree with everything. Like, I know Sully knows in his head that, this man is after Sully, and like, Spider knows that, like, this man won't stop until Sully's dead, and they're just gonna run into, like, more conflict. Like, Sully only, or Spider only saves the Colonel because they need the Colonel for the sequel. That's stupid. There's no logical story choice where Spider needs to save the Colonel. It's not like they developed this really weird bond. Not really. Not after the Colonel mercilessly slaughtered and burned down villages and killed the whales, like, just for the show of trying to get Sully's attention. Like, there's nothing interesting going on with the Colonel. Like, they don't continue. It'd be different if they like really try to kind of foster this connection between Spider and the Colonel, but they don't. They try and then they don't go far enough, so it doesn't make sense. He only saves the Colonel because James Cameron has a sequel coming in a couple years. That's the only reason. That's frustrating, James Cameron, in the movie. That frustrates me. Just let him die, man. Like, you're suffering from small universe syndrome if you're gonna bring him back for a third movie. And what can he do to earn redemption? I don't know if there's any way he could redeem himself. Like, it just doesn't just make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. So, and just like, and then they they bring this blue team in, which was all of the colonels, like him and his Goonies, all in like avatar bodies. And there's this whole plot line of like, oh, like, we're gonna turn Pandora into the new Earth, but we need to pacify the hostiles. And then they never bring up the fact that the fate of humanity is resting on their shoulders, essentially. And they don't ever bring that up back again, which I know they probably only dropped it in there so they have more sequels. But I'm like, just write a story, man. Like, things that are crucial to this plot, like, it's just like in Justice League, like in a BVS, where Bruce randomly goes through all of the Justice League files. What? like before the big third act, if memory serves me correct, I try not to watch that movie too often, but like it's just a random like what? Why? Don't put sequel bait in the middle of your movie. Or at least bring it back up if one of the if one of the Colonel's little goonies was like, "Hey, Colonel, like, also don't forget, like, this isn't just about Sully. Like, we got to pacify all of them. Like, if someone, so that the Earth can survive. If they would have done that, perfect. All right, cool. Then I would have rocked with it being a little bit of sequel bait. I can live with that. They just, I'm like, your movie's over 3 hours long. Like, you gotta, like, you can't leave plot lines like underdeveloped. I'm not saying they have to be completed, but they're underdeveloped in this movie. So it's just I don't know. I think I think the worst thing about this movie is for the first 2 hours and change, the movie at its best when no one is speaking and nothing is happening and they're just like able to just kind of swim around. Or, they're just like panning the camera or like swimming with the fish. For the first 2/3 of the movie, not when anybody's talking. I don't know. I'm like the best part of your movie is when nothing is happening. And then it's like bam. Then like you have this like very, very intense, pretty semi-violent, third act, where this whale is like literally spinning the entire block for the planet. Which I loved. I was like, damn right, whale. But I'm just like, your first 2/3 of your movie are boring, kind of, low key. But you're just so entranced by the visuals that you don't kind of realize in the moment until the third act happens. You're like, wow, almost nothing happened in the first 2/3. Um, and so I don't know. I don't think that's a great way to write a movie. I just don't. I just don't. And I understand that like, oh, and slowly just like abandons his forest people. Like they burned it down, man. Like when they landed their ships, like, and I know there's sequels and stuff, and you can't resolve, but like once they leave, bro, they never bring up the forest people. And Sully's like, man, like I wonder how they're doing. Like, I mean, like I understand 10 years has happened, so Sully can develop like the bond that he gave to the new chief, but like that was off screen. Like, how were we as the audience supposed to feel good about Sully doing that? And I just don't understand how like, oh, and if Sully's trying to hide from the military people, why would he ask the rogue bogey ship to go get him when he knew damn well that would like get them spotted? And it's not, and like the modern medicine didn't even work, and it didn't even work in the first movie. Like their little like spiritual like kind of supernatural healing stuff worked far more effective in the first movie as is. And so there's just some really dumb character choices that lead to the conflicts, and the whole conflict of the third act is the Colonel is trying to kill Sully. They have this huge big battle over it, and it's still not resolved because the Colonel's still alive. I just feel like the movie is leaving too. I just feel like the movie's leaving too much up for the other movies to follow up on. Who knows? Maybe they decide to cancel the rest of your Avatar films, which they won't do. But and you never get to make them. Like what happens? Like I don't know. It's fine to leave some up, so you have some future going forward. But like it just at times doesn't feel like a very complete story. Very moving, but just I don't know if it's just like a super complete story. And I expect better. So I think overall, visually you can't get any better than the Camel sequel to Avatar. This movie is completely immersive, and you often forget that it's almost all CGI. Well, as the movie gets simple plot, the first 2/3 are extremely boring with some questionable character decisions and design choices weighs the movie down. Still a great theater experience. That's what it's supposed to say. I'd give it a 7.5. It's solid. I think the visuals, literally give it like probably, like 6 out of 7.5 points, but like whatever. Um, I would say it is the most enjoyable in 3D. I watched it in 3D. It's very immersive. It's very good. So if you plan on watching it, go watch it in 3D. So thank you for checking out today's video. I always appreciate the support. Make sure you guys check out the link content above, and you guys have a great day.